Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the chairman of the Churchill Club, Board of Directors, Mr. Mark Leahy.
Good evening. Welcome to our distinguished members, sponsors, and special guests. I have to say how tremendously proud I have been to serve as the chair of the Churchill Club over the last 12 months. While this might not have been the best economic times for many, our membership actually grew by 7%. The number of programs we presented grew by 16%, and our attendance grew by 18%. So it's really you, our members, and our supporters who have made all the difference. Thank you very much. And of course, we couldn't do this with our fantastic staff and with the volunteers who help us tonight and throughout the season. Please let me also thank and acknowledge my fellow board members who are in the audience. If you would, please stand up. And Daniel Lewin, please raise your hand. You're going to be the chair next year, starting October 1. Tonight, we in this room are going to witness an historic event, an unscripted conversation between two great industry leaders, Larry Ellison and Ed Zander. Larry and Ed, thank you very much for presenting to us tonight. I want to flag two other events in particular that are coming up soon. Michael Dell on October 13 and Sheryl Sandberg on October 15. We also have Gordon Bell, Andy Bechtelsheim, Trip Hawkins, Zach Nelson, and a host of other leaders on the docket. So please check our program and churchillclub.org for details. Oracle is our gold sponsor tonight, and we appreciate their support. Oracle Openworld will be held from October 11 through 15 in San Francisco. Oracle has donated 2 full conference passes for 2 lucky winners. If you wish to be eligible, you can put your business card in the fish bowls on the way out tonight. Our supporting sponsors are Silicon Valley Bank and CSC. Thank you very much. And I encourage you to turn your cell phones on if you are twittering, and if so, please use pound or # Churchill Club. Now I'd like to call someone to the stage who is truly the driving force behind the club. Since joining us as CEO almost 2 years ago, she has demonstrated great vision, passion, and energy in leading the club. Please join me in welcoming Churchill Club CEO Karen Tucker.
Thank you very much for those kind words, Mark, and thank you also for your great service to this organization over the years. Hello, it's my privilege to introduce Ed Zander. Ed has been on our stage several times over the years, and he's always very entertaining and brings unique insights to the discussion at hand. Ed has spent more than 35 years in the technology sector. He played a key role in shaping some of the major paradigm shifts in technology that have impacted our world today, from mainframes to mini computers, from minis to workstations, from PCs to networking and the internet, and the revolution in wireless devices and mobility. Ed left his imprint on many of technology's greatest moments, including the popular Hello Moto campaign, which made the Motorola Razr the best-selling cell phone of all time, and the .com campaign propelling Sun Microsystems into an internet giant. Today, Ed spends his time on the boards of public and private companies, sharing his knowledge and his experiences with a generation of newcomers. He is also active in education and philanthropy. Ed, we are delighted to welcome you back, and we could not have done this program without you. Please welcome Ed Zander.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Really pleased to be here. Wow, what a great turnout. I didn't know I had such a big fan club. I got my fans here too, Larry. Where's all the Sun people? All the Sun people? Yeah. You just want to know if you have jobs. That was nice. I'm sorry about that. I want to thank Karen, the Churchill Club, and Shanaz Dava, wherever you are, who helped me put this together. You did a great job. A lot of people during the cocktail party asked me, how did this happen? And let me tell you, the story goes. The last time I was here was 4 years ago this Wednesday, and I had a little speech at the Churchill Club. I was at Motorola at the time. We were doing pretty well. Motorola was hot. Razor was going from 10 million to 100 million. We were doing pretty well, and I was feeling good. And it was just after we introduced the Rocker phone with Apple, and Apple at the same time introduced that thing called the Nano. So I was on stage doing my thing, and I think it was some journalist asked, Ed, what do you think about the Nano? And I go, I don't want to talk about the Nano, I want to talk about Motorola. And they kept going after me on this Nano thing, and finally, thinking it was a closed audience and there was no press there, I said, screw the Nano, who would ever listen to 1,000 songs? And in nanoseconds, it hit the web. Motorola PR went nuts. Got a call from Steve. Steve, we didn't mean it. It was just fun. I was just having some fun. And I ended up being in Wired magazine at one of the, I think the number 3 or number 4 dumbest things ever said. So, so this time when Karen called, I said, I don't want to be interviewed again because I don't know what I'm going to say. Even though right now I don't really care because I'm not working. So I said, they said, how about you interview somebody? And I said, fine. And they said, you pick person. It's up to you. You can do it. Unscripted. You know, we're not going to rehearse anything and go do it. So seriously, I made a list of what I wanted. And let me just give you some of the things and why Larry's here tonight. One is longevity. I wanted an old guy. And actually, somebody that's been around a while, that's done it, and somebody that's built a relevant company. I'm very big on the word relevance. I think relevance is something that we all aspire to and not many make it. And certainly Oracle, many, many years in front of us, is going to be relevant in everything they do. I want somebody that had great success, but faced challenges, hit a wall, but went through it. I want somebody that fought the big competitors not once, but over and over again. I want somebody that changed the rules, had vision, courage, took risks, saw around corners, and had a lot of passion. I want somebody that was opinionated, somebody that was controversial, and somebody that was charming. Well, okay. So, and I wanted somebody that was still very much in the hunt, somebody that was, even today, thinking about where the future is. And I want somebody that was very, very, very wealthy, so no matter what they said tonight, they didn't really care. And I wanted somebody not as good looking as me, which is good. So it was easy, right? Only one guy, that was Larry Ellison. But you know, there's a lot of people here, I know some young people that are in the industry and starting the industry, and I wanted to put things in perspective. Oracle is 32 years old, 32 years ago. And as the story goes, maybe Larry will tell us if it's true or not, with $2,000, he started the company, and a few years later became Oracle. It was commercializing the idea of relational databases. And back then, and I was at a company called Data General, you know, relational databases was much theoretical. There was a lot of research been done on it, very, very tough problem to solve. With a couple of guys, he went out and did it. He rode the whole mini-computer 80s, did a phenomenal job, hit a wall in the late 80s, had some significant issues and challenges with the company. Oracle's stock price plummeted. We came through that into the 90s and grew the company, beat Sybase, beat Informix, took on Microsoft, IBM, SAP, reinvented itself with a push in middleware and applications. Then, of course, just when you think Oracle's done and really rolling along, the merger and acquisition activity, PeopleSoft, Siebel, BEA, something like 56 acquisitions, $30 billion in the last several years. And today, 32 years later, the number 2 software company in the world, $20+ billion in sales. We used to say $1 of software was $10 of hardware, so that's like a $200 billion hardware company. $16 billion in cash, greater than 20% operating earnings, a market cap, even today, of over $110 billion. Stock doubled the last 5 years, while the market indices pretty much were flat or down. And as here tonight, probably, and throughout all of Silicon Valley and the country, so many former Oracle employees that built some of the other biggest software companies around. And today, if you go to any Fortune class company around the world, you're bound to see some software from Oracle. And then when you think Larry and his team are done, they got everything now, along comes the Sun deal, which we'll talk about. He's been at the helm for 32 straight years, and I try to figure who in this industry with a major corporation has done it contiguously for 32 years, and I couldn't come up with anybody. Larry is probably the longest running tech CEO, and he's still at it. And I think tonight you're going to find out that he ain't done with the last 32 years. There's another bunch of years in front of him. So without further ado, an amazing record in itself, let me bring up Larry Ellison. Sit down. Good to see you, Larry.
Good to see you, Eddie. I didn't turn my mic on, so it's going to be rather one-sided.
Is the mic on here? No, you're not. You don't, technology, give me this. Okay, we on? Here we on now. Okay, just talk.
Microsoft software problem.
That was one of my questions. You look good,
Well, thank you very much.
That was a good introduction I gave you, right?
Well, I was playing tennis with Tommy Haas over the weekend trying to get in shape for this. I really was. I lost.
Good introduction. The reason I did that is, now can I get a ride on the boat?
Which one?
The big one. Anyway, look.
The sailboat or the powerboat?
I want the sailboat. I want the racing boat. Look, I actually did some work for this, believe it or not. And
I'm glad one of us repaired.
And I don't know if you know this, there's about 3.38 million searches on our favorite search engine with Larry Ellison. And I read them all. I took them home at night and I read all the searches and got nothing out of it. But except one thing. Did you know you had a Larry Ellison fan club on Facebook? It's not yours. There's 181 members. India, Egypt,
181?
France. That's it. That's it.
We have 105,000 employees after the Sun acquisition. That's really depressing.
I try to find something on Google, and that was what I found. You got 181 people that follow you, and it's really serious. Yeah, so you got to check it out.
Good God.
So Larry, let's.
Who are these people?
I don't know. I'd have security check them out. But let's get serious for a moment. Did you ever stop, seriously, just introducing you and thinking about it, did you ever stop for a second and think about the last 30 years and what you started? Could you ever have imagined that $2,000 could turn in the enormous success professionally and personally? I mean, how do you put that in perspective?
Well, first I'd like to clear up that $2,000 thing, because I put in $1,200, Bob Miner put in $400, and Ed Oates put in $400, so I didn't put in a full $2,000. And to be serious for a moment, but only a short moment, our goal was we started with 4 employees, and our goal was to get to 50 employees. And the goal really was not so much to make a lot of money. To me, a lot of money in those days was I wanted to own a house, I want to have a nice car, and I wanted to work with interesting people and do interesting things. And I thought if I could control my own environment, have a small consulting company. And Oracle started out as a software consulting company. We worked for Tandem Computer, if anyone remembers those guys. We worked for IBM. We worked for a lot of different tech companies in Silicon Valley doing contract programming, fixed price contract programming. And we did pretty well, actually. And again, the idea was just to have a small contract software company. We thought we were hotshot programmers, and we thought we could make a decent living doing just that. And quite by accident, we built a product.
When did you know this was going to be big, or was it incremental along the way?
Well, that's an interesting story. We built this. There was a lot of research being published at the time. This was a long time ago. I'm not even going to tell you the year we started, but you mentioned 32 years ago. It was 1977. And at the time, there was a number of research papers being published by IBM, specifically by this guy by the name of Ted Codd, about relational database theory and based on relational algebra and relational calculus. And then another group under Donald Chamberlain had built a prototype product called System R, but they couldn't make it perform well. And I was reading all of this research, and the conventional wisdom was at the time that you couldn't make a relational database performant. It couldn't be run anywhere near as fast as a conventional system. It had a lot of theoretical advantages, but it was just way too slow to ever be a commercial product. And that was IBM's belief at the time. And I looked at the technology and I thought there was no reason whatsoever why it shouldn't be at least the same speed as other database systems, because what's called the physical data model and the logical data model are really disconnected. And the physical data model determines performance, and the logical data model determines functional capability and how you interface with it. And I thought we could build a system that ran as fast as conventional systems. I promise I'll have no other answers this long again. And we built this thing we called Oracle, this database system. And I knew it was going to be big when we ran a benchmark on a digital equipment PDP-11 for the Central Intelligence Agency, and we ran faster than any of the other databases that ran on the PDP-11 mini computer. And I was so stunned after the benchmark that we had, that we were the fastest database on digital equipment's most popular computer, that when I was leaving the building, we had, believe it or not, we had an accounting firm, and we had a kind of a chief accountant worked for us on a contract basis with a company called Arthur Anderson. And his name was Tony Spoor. And I don't know where Tony is these days, but I remember we met him in the elevator lobby. He and I just accidentally ended up in the elevator lobby. I think we had 7 employees at the time or something like that. And I said, Tony. And he kind of looked at me and I said, Oracle is the fastest database on the PDP-11. Do you know what that means? And he kind of looked at me like, something wrong with you? Or he looked a little agitated, and he was kind of backing away from me slowly because I guess my eyes were, just not sane, because I was very excited. And I said, it means, and Tony says, no, what does it mean? He was trying to calm me down, and he had no idea what I was going to do next. I said, it means that Oracle's worth $100 million, which is the largest number I could think of.
All right.
And then you should see the look on his face, like someone should sedate him and get him to a hospital as quickly as possible. Because I think in our bank account we had about $6,400 at the time, and way less than the $100 million I said we were worth. No, but it really was. When we won that benchmark, when we had that benchmark, and we knew we had built a relational database that was faster than any other database on any mini computer in the world, we knew we had it.
I'm going to come back to more of that, but let me talk about something that's really important, that's sailing. And I got the most important question today. Are you going to bring America's Cup? Are you going to win it and bring it home to San Francisco this February?
Well,
come on, give me the answer. Are you going to win?
The real question is, unfortunately, it's
I asked the question.
It's going to be just. We have the fastest boat. We have the best crew, and if it's a fair race, we'll win.
It sounds like an Oracle sales call.
But
no.
It depends on the courts. We're suing. We're back in court.
But the race is February, isn't it?
The race is February, and we're back in court. And if the rules are fair, if the judge, I don't go into it. As long as the rules are fair, and if this judge decides that the rules have to be fair, that once and we get and it's a fair race, I think we're the overwhelming favorite to win.
What is it with this team Alinghi? They're Swiss, obviously. There's no ocean there. I don't understand how they even sail. You don't like each other. I mean, is this just personal or what?
It's become very personal. When they won they won last time, I hired this sailor called Russell Coutts.
Yep.
Russell Coutts' record in the America's Cup is very simple to remember. He's raced 14 times. He's won 14 times. He is the greatest competitive sailor in the history of racing. He's the most successful sailor in the America's Cup. He's an Olympic gold medalist. He is clearly the best sailor that's ever lived. He won it for Team New Zealand. He defended it for Team New Zealand. Yep. He won it for Alinghi, and then he left Alinghi. And I believe the Swiss team is not comfortable racing against Russell Coutts. So because this is my belief is they're so uncomfortable racing against Russell Coutts that they don't want to race him in a fair way, and they're doing everything they can to tilt the rules. Let me tell you what the rules they promulgated for the current America's Cup. Let's be very brief. Be very brief. They said they can change the rules at any time. They said they can disqualify any contestant at any time. They said that the umpires on the water work for them and only them. And they said the jury to which you appeal something works for them and only them. Let me, if you give me that same rules in the NBA, I will break Will Chamberlain's scoring record in a game. Foul, foul. Who's ever heard of a sporting contest where the umpires or referees work for one team? It is the most bizarre. So what's the right expression? Went crazy.
No.
When I saw the rules, and we filed a lawsuit, and we're suing them over these mad rules.
So you are going to race, though. You think?
We think we're going to race.
And you're going to win.
And we think we're going to win
Okay.
as long as they don't cheat.
Yes. I think I touched a nerve. I think the people in the audience will be interested about the boat. I think you name it Dogzilla. It's a trimaran.
I wanted to name it Death Star 1, but my wife and Safra both thought that was a bad idea.
Don't interrupt me when I do questions. So it's a trimaran.
Not Dogzilla. I mean, that's a terrible name.
I know it is. Well, it's got it on my notes here. It is really it's probably the most expensive boat and the thing that I was amazed is talking to you earlier and reading about it is the technology that's in this thing. And since this is a technology audience, just quickly, can you just tell us a little bit about it? Because it is a three-hull.
Yeah,
it's never been done before.
No, it's never.
There's risks with it too, right?
Yeah, it's a high modulus carbon fiber boat. We got the most. We're right up near Boeing, and we have more advanced carbon fiber technology than the aerospace industry. We're more advanced carbon fiber than Boeing, and but we build the boat up in Seattle, and she's 3 hulls. But when she's sailing, she goes up on the leeward hull, And even the leeward hull comes completely out of the water because there are hydrofoils underneath the dagger board. So there are dagger boards underneath so the entire boat is completely out of the water. And by the way, the mainsail is larger than both wings of the Airbus A380, the huge airplane. So the mainsail is, I don't know, round numbers, 20 stories high. Twice the size, much more lifting power than the largest commercial airliner in the world. And she's flying, and it's just barely touching the water. And she's designed to be unstable. She's designed to lift out of the water, so she's inherently unstable. And she'll do right around 50 knots or 60 miles an hour. To give you an idea, that's faster than any boat in the United States Navy. And they have, nuclear power and turbine engines.
Does Microsoft run the software at Microsoft?
Well, we hope Microsoft's on board Alinghi. In fact, we agreed to pay for it for them if they use it. No, neither one of us use Microsoft software that I know of.
Okay, good. Well, look, good luck. I mean, one of the things I know you get asked a lot about is, your passion for sailing and passion for business. Is there any similarities there when you go out every day and try to win this thing?
Well, I think that's it. I think Oracle's a very competitive company, and I think there are a lot of competitive people at Oracle, and I enjoy competition. I think life is kind of a series of acts of discovery. And I think we're all interested in our limits, what we can accomplish in life, and discovering our own limits. And we might find that in sport, we might find that in business. I think we're always, looking to discover new things, and new things about each other and new things about ourselves.
Last question on sailing. Would you rather win a big deal against SAP or beat Team Malingi in a race?
Beat Team Malingi in the race. We beat SAP all the time.
That is not scripted. That was, I'll tell you. Well, let's move on from sailing to another interesting topic called Sun Microsystems. How many Sun people here? Where are my Sun friends out there? Yeah. What could you possibly be thinking when you did this deal? And why didn't you call me? Why didn't you call me?
I did call you.
You called me after.
Whoa. Yeah, but
Let me give you the question.
it was. Okay.
All right, hold it down. Let me give you the question. So, for 30 years.
Did they hold it down?
30 years it's been software, high gross margin, operating earnings, cash machine, customer stickiness, locked in, sell on multiple platforms. Sun, my dear beloved alma mater, systems, now struggling, lower gross margin, operating earnings, commodity hardware, and losing market share. Tell me this makes sense.
Okay, well, there's a book I was interviewed for called Software. And if you read the book, which 4 people have, it's about 11,000 pages. And there is a chapter, I think, called something like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I think the short answer to that was, we want to be T.J. Watson Jr.'s IBM. Not Lou Gerstner's IBM, not Paul Massano's IBM. We want to be T.J. Watson Jr.'s IBM. And that's when IBM really was the dominant software company. That dominant's a bad word. I'm not allowed to use that word. When IBM was both they were the dominant software company in the world, and they translated that position in software to become the dominant systems company in the world. We are not going in the hardware business. We have no interest in the hardware business. We have a deep interest in the systems business. Let me tell you the great systems companies. Cisco is a great systems company. They ship a hardware-software combination that allows them to be instrumental in the acceleration of the internet. And we think by combining our software with hardware, that we can deliver systems that can be the backbone of most enterprises in America and around the world. So it's really the combination of the two. We have no interest in competing with Dell and the plain old running Windows on x86s, or HP with running Windows on x86s. We're very interested in running airline reservation systems. And we're very interested in running banking systems and telecommunication systems. And that requires both hardware and software.
So were you thinking about this? I mean, some people think it was totally defensive. You didn't want IBM to have it. It was Solaris, it was Java, it was the telecommunications and financial services markets. You guys thinking about these kinds of things, or did this just come on your lap and you decided to go after it?
Well, it was in the book. And if you go back and seriously, you look at the book, I think T.J. Watson Jr.'s IBM was the greatest company in the history of enterprise on Earth, because they had that combination of hardware and software running most of the enterprises on the planet. And that company was, that company was the dominant company in computing when I came into this industry. It was pre-Intel. There was no Intel. There was no PC. There certainly was no Mac or any of this stuff. It was IBM. And I was told IBM was not a company against whom you competed. IBM was the environment in which you competed. And we've already beaten IBM in software.
Okay.
On modern systems. And now, if everyone will let us, We'd like to see if we can beat IBM in hardware.
So are you going to
or
keep all?
systems.
Are you going to keep all the systems? You're going to keep the Spark?
We are keeping everything. We're keeping tape. We're keeping storage. We're keeping x86 technology and Spark technology. We're going to increase the investment in it. Sun, if you look around at technology companies, and if we could get, just for $1, if we could buy IBM, HP, Sun, or any of these tech companies, I'm not sure we wouldn't pick Sun if they're all the same price. And Sun was selling at a hell of a discount. So Sun has fantastic technology. We think it's got great microprocessor technology, needs a little more investment, but we think Spark can be extremely competitive. It's got the leading tape archival storage systems. We think Open Storage, their new disk system, is absolutely fantastic. Java speaks for itself. Solaris is overwhelmingly the best open systems operating system on the planet. Sun has been a national treasure for the last couple of decades. And we think with the combination of that Sun technology and Oracle technology, we can compete and succeed and beat IBM, and that's our goal.
Let me ask you about the status, because now you got your good friends over in Europe, the European Union. What do you make of it? Are they just flexing their muscles against U.S. companies? This isn't the first time. I know you got to be careful what you say here, but you think you're going to get it done? And when?
Well, they have a job to do. They're supposed to review. They're supposed to review the transaction, just like the U.S. government is supposed to review the transaction. The U.S. government took their time and deliberated carefully, and the U.S. government cleared us. They said it is overwhelmingly a pro-competitive merger. I mean, if you look at the major systems companies in the world who originate IP, I mean, there aren't a lot of them left. So you want someone to compete with IBM. I mean, Sun has the technology to do that. So I think it's overwhelmingly, at least the U.S. opinion came down. Right. This is overwhelmingly pro-competitive, and I'm optimistic. I mean, the Europeans have to do their job, but I think once they do their job, they're going to come to the same conclusion.
Well, it seems one of the issues is MySQL, and what are you going to do with that? And do you believe in open source and all this other things around that technology? First of all, are you going to keep it? Are you going to spin it off? Some people think you're going to kill it. And what's your take on open source?
We're a big fan of open source. In fact, we've had the major transaction engine to MySQL is something Oracle bought years ago, and Oracle's invested in it in a higher level than was being invested in before. We believe in open source. We're a huge supporter of Linux.
So MySQL?
MySQL and Oracle do not compete at all. If you go through, and this is what the European Union, what the U.S. did, and the European Union is going to look at. If you look at where we compete, who we compete against DB2, we compete against Microsoft SQL Server, we compete against Sybase, we compete against Teradata, and Netezza. There's a long list of database machines and database software systems that we compete against. We never compete against MySQL. They're both called databases. They address very different markets. Furthermore, many people can sell it's open source.
If they ask you to spin it off, would you?
No.
If they told you to spin it off, would you?
No, we're not going to spin it off. Okay. The U.S. government cleared this. We think the Europeans are going to clear us. We are not going to spin anything off.
Good. Let me ask you another question. It seems, I mean, you read the press, and certainly IBM, I just pulled an article out here that said they've taken 250 customers from Sun customers in the last 6 months. Obviously, the delay is, and I know you ran this ad, and Sun customers for Oracle with your name on it. How's that going, and what do you tell a Sun customer today?
Well, right now, I mean, we're concerned about Sun employees. I mean, Sun is losing $100 million a month. $100 million a month. That's a problem. And so time is not, we'd like to get this thing done. I mean, that's a big problem. So we have told Sun, Oracle obviously makes more than that. So even after we buy them, and we think that's the uncertainty around this whole thing. And if you read the HP ad, HP says, "How much uncertainty can you take?" And if you read the IBM ad, they're just playing off this uncertainty. So the problem again, I understand the European Union has a job. They have a job to do, and they've got to review this, and they've got to review it thoroughly. And I understand that, and I appreciate it. But the longer this takes, the more money Sun is going to lose, and that's not good, I don't think, for anybody. By the way, IBM saying they took 250 customers from Sun. What does that mean? That's 250 customers throughout all their Sun machines and replace them with IBM machines? I mean, I'd like IBM to explain what they meant when they said they took 250 customers away from Sun. I don't think there's a single example of any Sun customer who's replaced all of their machines with IBM computers. I'll be very clear. Solaris is way better than AIX. Oracle, well, I'll get myself in trouble here.
Yeah.
Oracle
Go ahead.
will outrun, well, the Sun machines will outrun the IBM machines running the Oracle database. The Sun machines are faster than what IBM has, and they cost less.
So you
We're
think-
very happy to compete with IBM on a level playing field.
Yeah.
When they stop playing the uncertainty card, we think we can run faster than they do and deliver better cost performance than them.
So you got to get this thing done.
We want to get it done to save as many jobs as we can.
Speaking about HP, what do you tell Mark Hurd? I mean, HP has been big. I mean, you've had a collaboration on database. They use your database. Obviously, IBM has DB2, and you got Microsoft up with their own, and that was the power of Oracle that it could run on these multiple platforms. Does Mark go out now, have to go get something? Do they buy SAP or do something with SAP? What happened?
I think I've got a great relationship with Mark, and we have enormous respect for HP. Or clearly, all of Oracle software is going to continue to run on HP gear, and we're going to tune it and make it work as well as
But it's
possible.
got to run faster on Sun.
I said we're faster than IBM.
Yeah.
I didn't mention HP.
But
HP is a very important partner for us. We got a very important relationship with HP. We're going to work extremely hard to preserve that relationship. That's the right thing for us. That's the right thing for our customers.
But there's going to, that's.
We're going to compete. We're going to compete also.
That's good.
We're going to compete. Well, it's going to be fine. It doesn't mean we can't have a good. Yeah. We can have a good relationship. Do you know who the biggest reseller of Oracle is in the world?
No.
SAP.
Yeah.
Do you know the company that does more Oracle installations than any other company in the world?
Probably IBM.
That would be IBM.
Yeah. But every action is going to have a reaction. I mean, today Dell bought Perot. I think you saw that, which is kind of weird. But and I think you're going to, my take is this is going to cause a lot of different chain reactions. But it'd be interesting to see what happens.
Well, the more successful we are, with these systems, it's going to, it's not a zero-sum game, but it does. But we expect to take share away from IBM and away from all of our competitors and enterprise systems.
Well, you just announced the new Sun Oracle X-Data port, right? I don't know if you know this, but I was on the board early on at Netezza, and I saw you're gonna kill Netezza now. So I just want to know, should I be worried?
I think we're so much faster than Netezza, it's absurd. I'm seriously.
Okay.
I mean
thanks a
Netezza,
lot.
Teradata, but I mean, if Netezza can compete with us,
Oh, stop it.
good.
Is it all about, you mentioned that because that's something that I've been thinking about for several years now. Is it all about these appliances, this integration for specific applications?
Yeah, well, I think customers. We've been treating customers like computer hobbyists. Go buy an operating system. Go buy some network switches and routers and a database and some applications and hire a lot of programmers and we've been selling components. It's what Andy Grove referred to as the horizontal computer system. Intel's really good at microprocessors. By the way, I think Andy Grove's a brilliant guy. I just think he's fundamentally wrong. I mean, he believed that the right model for computing is everyone's very specialized in one area. You make memory chips, and I think it's true of memory chips. I think it's true of microprocessors. But at some point, someone's got to be the integrator. And the question is the integrator IBM Global Services, or is the integrator a systems company like Oracle and Sun, where the database and the hardware, the database and the hardware and the networking and the middleware and the applications all work together.
Yeah,
and we believe that's the right place to integrate at the engineering level, not what IBM Global Services is trying to do, which is at the consultant service level.
I get it. That's where that's where I started in the industry. And there's pros and cons of this. And the question I've been thinking about the last couple of years, are we in another cycle of massive consolidation? I grew up with IBM, Burroughs, Univac, NCR Control Data and Honeywell, the bunch guys, and it was one-stop shopping, integrated all, the old IBM and whatever. And I guess the question now with slow economic growth, is this a sign of put it all together, a massive consolidation? I just thought about HP buying EDS and Cisco getting into servers and Dell today, and of course IBM and Microsoft with all their acquisitions and yours. I mean, are we down to, at least in the, before we get down to the Googles of the world, we'll get to that a little bit, but in the traditional computing / software industry, are we going to go through a period of years here now where there's going to be 5, 6 companies that the customer will buy from, and is this good for the customer?
I think it's good for the customer as long as it's 5 or 6. I think it's not so good for the customer if it's 2. So we think the Sun Oracle combination gives the customer some choices they didn't have before. But I think it's not good for the customer when the customer has to buy lots of technology components and then assemble them into working systems. That is enormously labor intensive. That is very costly and it's very error prone. So we believe in this model where we deliver complete computer systems. I think that's good. That will actually lower costs for customers as long as customers have a few vendors to choose from.
If we dial back to the 70s and what got the mini computer industry going, and again the Andy Grove model was customers got tired, didn't like the one-stop shopping, one throat to choke, the pricing, the controlling aspects of it, rate of innovation being controlled by a few companies, and that of course led to I think what's happened in the 70s, late 70s, 80s, and early 90s. And I guess customers now, some really like the Sun acquisition. Some are saying, wow, they've got all my ERP, they got all my applications, all my middleware, now they got all the hardware. It's similar to IBM. This was the sale against IBM for years. What do you tell customers who are apprehensive right now?
Well, I think the question is, can we do a better job? Can we deliver more reliability? Can we deliver more performance? Can we deliver it at a higher quality and a lower cost? So I think and can we keep the innovation rate coming? So I think Oracle's got a pretty good track record, and Sun's got a pretty good track record of innovating in this industry. So as long as we don't become complacent, and we continue to be competitive and we continue to be innovative, I think we can deliver more value by engineering the pieces to fit together.
Okay, I get it. This is your, this is a big acquisition, and of course, the more delays, as you said, the more difficulty from the financial side, but also I think the product side and the people side. It's also your first foray to real, I don't want to say hardware, but systems. Is this going to be real hard for you guys to go do? I know you've done, really, it looks from the outside, a hell of a job with PeopleSoft and Siebel and some of the others. Is Sun going to take you, basically out of commission for a couple of years in terms of acquisitions, or how tough is this one?
Well, I think Sun is, and IBM also, is kind of overwhelmingly, systems is about 85% software. And if you take out the microprocessor design. And microprocessor design is a complicated deal, it's a very complex component, and Sun has a significant team, IBM's got a significant team, Intel has a significant team designing microprocessors. But when you get by the microprocessor component, and you're assembling these systems, Cisco, I'm guessing, 85, 90% software. So it's really
but you're dealing with supply chains now, and manufacturing, and outsourcing, and fixing things, and service organizations. Been there a lot over my years. This is different stuff.
Yeah, well, again, a lot of people at Sun have a lot of experience doing this. Okay. They've got a terrific, senior executive coach, John Fowler, who's been doing this for a very, very long time. Whose background, by the way, was software before he did this. A great guy. So Sun has a lot of talent. Clearly, we're going to rely on a lot of the talent that's already over there. There's some terrific people managing supply chain over at Sun. And so we think, we can take advantage of all of those years of experience that are at Sun. And our value add is to help them assemble the components they have and integrate those components with our components. So, and deliver a much higher value total system. But their experience in supply chain, their experience in dispatching people to, with the right spare part to repair a broken system. So they already know how to do that. What we know how to do is deliver database and applications and middleware and tune that stuff to work on their gear.
Well, I'm not supposed to be impartial tonight, but good luck with it. I think it's just a great company with great technology, and if it was going to go somewhere, I really do believe Oracle's a place where I think the Sun people and the Sun technology can continue to grow. So, best wishes, good luck. Let me shift to cloud computing, which is, the old network is the computer, and now they call it cloud. You didn't believe it a couple years ago, at least you were quoted. Now you seem to believe it. Hold on. We got companies like Salesforce.com and NetSuite, which actually is, you're certainly a big investor in that. But we have, of course, Googles of the world and the Amazons. And it seems like every startup I'm working with is talking about, something in the cloud and putting applications in the cloud. We're seeing it at the consumer level first, the personal level first. But if you look at the innovation and what's being funded, it's happening. I sometimes think let's go out 5 years. Because not this year. I think about IBM mainframes, I think about DEC and minis, I think PCs and the internet. Are you at risk in terms of the revenue streams? Because I'm talking to CIOs now, and while they're not putting everything in the cloud, just buying a Salesforce.com, buying pieces of software, looking at applications of what can I move into the cloud, is beginning to take much more interest in the CIO. Now, I know we've got a long way to get before we put an ERP in there, but what do you think?
Well, the cloud, cloud's water vapor, but I assume...
There's a quote, it's better than screw the NATO. It is.
My objection to cloud computing is the fact that everyone, and this is, cloud computing is not only the future of computing, Eddie, it is the present, and the entire past of computing is all cloud. Salesforce.com has been around for more than a decade, and so is NetSuite. NetSuite's been around longer than Salesforce, and people are saying, well, that's cloud computing. Google's now cloud computing. Everyone's cloud computing. My objection to cloud computing was everyone simply looks around, like I've always been doing cloud computing. It's like 10 years ago, but cloud computing, the term's only 4 years old. But like everything is in the cloud now, and my objection is the absurdity.
You don't like it?
No, it's not that I don't like the idea of what is. It's this nonsense. The guys say, "Oh, it's in the cloud." Well, what is that? Then you say, "Are we dead?" Yeah, we're dead. If there's no hardware or software in the cloud, we are so screwed. But it's not water vapor. All it is a computer attached to a network. What are you talking about? What do you think Google runs on?
I'll ask you another.
Did they run on water vapor? Cloud. They have it's databases.
How about the next question?
And operating systems and memory and microprocessors and the internet. And all of a sudden, it's none of that. It's the cloud. What are you talking about? Now, the VCs, I love the VCs. Oh, we only fund, is that cloud? Oh, yeah, whoa. Microsoft Word, change internet to cloud. Mass change, give it back to these nitwits on Sand Hill Road.
Wait a second. That was actually one of my tamer questions. I guess I'm not going to get a ride in the boat.
No, you can,
no, you know why.
You can go on the boat.
Look.
It's a cloud boat. All sailing is cloud sailing.
Okay. Sorry.
What do you mean by cloud computing?
If you let me. No, I'm going to move on. Nah, it ain't going to work anyway. You know what I mean.
Well, you'd be asked, are we dead by cloud computing?
No, that's dead.
But seriously. Is Intel dead? There's going to be no microprocessors in the cloud? Is Samsung dead? There's going to be no memory in the cloud.
Let me say it another way.
Is Cisco dead because there's no networking in the cloud? Are we dead because there's no databases in the cloud, no applications in the cloud, no middleware in the cloud? The answer is no. It's just, all the cloud is computers in a network. And then you could say, in terms of technology. Now, in terms of business model, you can say, oh, it's rental. And this is also very interesting, this notion of rental. All Salesforce.com was, before they were cloud computing, they were software as a service. And then they became cloud computing because software as a service, well, it's the same reason. Chanel last year was fuchsia. This year, it's kind of puce. But, I mean, our industry is so bizarre. You know, they just change a term and they think they've invented technology. You can't just come up with, like, let's call that cloud. You know, it sure beats innovation.
You know, I think he's really worried about cloud computing. I'm going to check back with you in a couple of years because you know what I'm talking about. Let me shift to the mobile internet. And, you know, it's an interesting question. You might think, well, you said something about the PCs and mobile, but I always look at things, and I look at the PC analogy. And when we were sitting at Sun, you know, we looked at these things called PCs, and we said, you know, you take them home and you play with them or whatever. Hold on, and all of a sudden they replaced, you know, dumb terminals and got on our screens, and then we saw the whole advent of the PC evolution in corporate businesses, and Microsoft got a desktop. If you think broadband's everywhere, which I do, and you believe in the cloud, and you believe in the software and the applications, and you look at Google, even though it's very mature yet with Android and Chrome and the apps that are being generated. But again, I'm thinking forward here. And businesses begin to use more of, I saw with Motorola, for example, what people were starting to do with these smartphones and intelligent things, and we look at netbooks. I mean, this is an opportunity for you because I think about if you really do pull off the Sun thing, you already, certainly great success in the software stack. Does Oracle need to have a delivery vehicle? And certainly, the operating system's interesting. You know, do you want to give that up again to Microsoft, or do you want to give it up to Android? And then does it come back to pick up the piece of the enterprise? So what are you guys thinking about the whole mobile internet, and where does Oracle play in the space? Is that okay? Is that a good question?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Okay, good.
So, a long time ago, you know, back when it wasn't called the cloud, it was called the internet. Which was even before older than software as a service and on demand. And these are all the same things, by the way. It's the same technologies. I introduced this thing called the network computer. And I said, look, a modern computing network should be built like all the other networks. All the complexity should be in the network, if you prefer cloud. I'm happy with the term. I don't care about the term. We can call it cloud. All the complexity should be in the network, because that's true of the electric power network, the water network. The water network is very complicated, but a faucet's pretty simple. The electric power network is very complicated, but plugging something in is pretty simple. And eventually the computer network will get away from client-server, where you have a lot of complicated stuff on your desktop. All right. And all of that complexity will be hidden from you and go into the network. And you'll simply plug in a variety of devices like a smartphone, and I call all these things network computers. Whether they're mobile network computers or Ethernet network computers, really doesn't matter. But they're relatively simple appliances that plug into the internet and then have access to applications and data. Because the applications and data are in the cloud.
Do you do something with Java now? Do you get into that space? Could we see an application platform, for example, for developers to write?
We're in that space, right? So Java is literally on billions of devices, and you know, if you have a Kindle, it's a Java device. If you have if you have a BlackBerry, it's a Java device. Most of the devices, I mean, clearly, if you have an internet browser, that internet browser, whether it's Opera or it's Firefox or it's IE, you know, is a Java-enabled piece of software. So people write Java, and they write JavaScript, and so Java is already, if you will, the lingua franca of network computers.
But do we see someday an Oracle-powered either device for businesses or something else in the mobile internet space? Is that something that you guys are kind of looking at?
My preference would be an ARM supplier to all of the device manufacturers.
Okay.
That we supply. I think it's very important for Java to be an open standard, right. And that we'd like to see it on every cell phone, on every desktop, on every laptop, on every netbook, on every Kindle, and all these interesting new devices that will show up. I think Oracle's strength has always been on the other side of that wire, or the other side of that wireless network. Managing the information, serving up the applications, analyzing the data, doing those kinds of things inside the complex network rather than in the device itself.
Well, stay tuned on that space, because I mean, Java's got challenges in this space. We talked about this several months ago. Microsoft, are they relevant anymore?
They make a lot of money. Yeah, no, I think they're clearly relevant. Microsoft, to me, is, if I divide the computer industry into two groups, and I know for a long time I constantly was picking a fight with Microsoft, and now we're kind of constantly picking a fight with IBM, because you've got to pick your enemies very carefully, because you're destined to be most like those enemies you select. And IBM is who we're targeting. That's the company we want to compete with. That's the company we feel we have to win to be successful, be successful ourselves. Microsoft is consumer-oriented, and IBM is business-oriented. IBM sells primarily to businesses and governments. Microsoft, culturally now, is a very consumer-centric company. They've got the Xbox, they've got Zune, they're very worried about Google.
But all their profits and margins, and Windows 7 now is your desktop, and my desktop, and everybody else's desktop.
I don't think that has the interest of the company. I think they are obsessed with Apple. They're obsessed with Google. They are, to some degree, Sony and PS3, though they've done a pretty good job with the Xbox against them. I think they've actually got more devices out there than Sony has in this current generation.
So they're relevant, but not in your. You don't have them on your radar.
I think no, it's not that we don't have them on our radar. No, they're a very important player, but I just think culturally now, under the new administration at Microsoft, I see them and all of their energies going into being successful in the consumer space. They still have, obviously, a huge presence, and all their money is in the business space, but that's not where their heart is, and that's not where their focus is. So they're competing with Apple, they're competing with Sony, they're competing with Google. God bless them. That's in another hemisphere.
So when you wake up, the target, IBM?
IBM.
What about SAP?
Yeah, SAP, those are our top two competitors, IBM number one and SAP number two. I think we've been doing really well against SAP lately. We've taken a lot of share lately, and I'm pretty confident we can be successful.
Real quick, because I got some other, I think, really interesting questions I want to ask you. What new technology excites you? What's the next big thing, and what do you watch? I mean, in your little free time do you have, what do you look out in front of you and think what's new, what's exciting, besides clouds?
Again,
don't start on the cloud. Just tell me about what's new and exciting.
okay, I'm happy to use the term if you want me to, but keep in mind it's just a word.
No, I don't.
And it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Flash. I think the most interesting thing going on right now, we're in a technology transition for storage. And those with the most have the most to lose. So we're really interested in the storage market. Exadata, our new database machine, has two components, one of which is the database, the data processing component. The other is what we call the Exadata storage server. And the new version we just came out with has a lot of flash in it, what we call flash cache. And rapidly accessing data in storage, historically on disk, now in flash, and then moving that into database machines for processing is the name of the game. And flash allows us to accelerate that dramatically. And we think we can take on and be very successful in the storage business.
Okay, I'm going to go quick here because they're giving me the signs here. Broader issues, the economy, your take? Up, down, flat?
Someone asked, I finally saw something I agreed with. They said, is it going to be a V-shaped recovery, very rapidly down, very rapidly up? Is it going to be a W-shaped recovery, down, up, down again, double dip recession? Is it going to be U-shaped, boom, low on the ground, then slowly back up?
What do you think?
I finally saw someone said, it's going to be an L-shaped recovery. Down, not coming back. Now, I believe that. I believe that. I mean, I believe we're going through some fundamental changes. The American consumer is so deeply in debt and still deeply in debt. The Economist called this for a long time ago. The Economist has called a lot of these things. They just can't get the timing right, so I can't invest based on their articles. But the problem is the American consumer is so deeply in debt. This is not going to come back, certainly for 5 years. The consumer has got to, and you've seen for the first time, the American consumer have a saving rate of over 5%. And the American consumer just has to save, not spend, to pay off some of this debt. And that means, and by the way, and our economy is 70% consumer in the US. That's not true around the rest of the world, but in the United States, that's true. That's right. So the United States is not going to be the engine for growth around the world. So the economy as we know it, and we're also going to go to a much higher tax regime. I think the administration is very focused right now on the issue of fairness and universal health care coverage, which I don't know anyone who's against universal health care coverage, but it's going to be very expensive.
So speaking of that, Obama, your take?
I voted for President Obama, and I'll kind of confess to that right now. And I think I am surprised at how much spending. I'm surprised that there are so many huge spending programs we're facing. We're facing a huge, obviously the stimulus package, which we can debate whether it's worked or not, but that was $800 billion, a bill for healthcare, another $1 trillion. Cap and trade, if we do it, is another $1 billion. And if we do cap and trade, we have to have tariffs. I think we're going to have tariffs on imported goods, because you can't suddenly say that energy is going to be very expensive in the United States, which will force manufacturing overseas, and without then having tariffs on things coming back into the United States from countries like India and China, who've said very clearly they have no interest in monitoring their CO2 output until they have the same per capita CO2 output as the United States, which means China would be able to increase their CO2 output. China's already the leading producer of CO2 on the planet Earth, not the United States. They'd be able to increase that by a factor of 4. So before they would put any CO2 caps. So there are a lot of things going on right now that make me believe that the economy is, we're not going to have a rapid recovery from this.
Higher taxes, deficit.
Yeah.
So there's an open governors slot coming up. Why don't you think about it?
No, thank you. But my children have said they would leave me if I do that. In fact, my whole family said they'd leave me.
Really?
They took a vote and they're all going. So.
I had a couple
Plus,
other ones,
I
but I'm
probably
going to
wouldn't be
I'm going to get to my close a little more personal, if you don't mind. If you think back, what decision would you love to have taken back professionally over the last 32 years? Is there one that sticks in your mind you wish you could have?
It's kind of interesting.
Probably
I've made so many mistakes I have to go through. I can think of a bunch. I remember one time we had Oracle running on DOS. On an Intel machine, and I said, on MS-DOS, a long time ago, and I said, oh no reason to productize this. OS2's right around the corner. That was a brilliant move on my part.
That was like, yeah.
That was genius.
We got some young people in here that are starting companies, and maybe not with 2,000, whatever. What advice would you give someone out there who has a dream? Can we one of the things I worry about is American competitiveness. I worry about everything we read about, H-1B visas, R&D tax credits, stock options, CEO bashing. Can someone start another Oracle or Intel or Cisco again? It seems like everything that's started now gets sold pretty quickly. What advice would you have for some young Larry Ellison out there?
Well, I certainly, I don't know if I'd focus in the computer industry. I guess the last big, successful company to go public is Google. Google's the right one. It's kind of applied computer technology, exploiting the internet, exploiting search. Clearly Google's been very, very successful. And Facebook is kind of interesting. I don't know how much money they're actually profitable now. They're a very small company. They don't make a lot of money. I would probably go into biotech, not computing. I think you want to go into a field where the innovation rate is very, very high. And this is going to sound very strange, but I don't, and I said this, you know, when I was invited to a Kleiner Perkins lunch, which I was never to talk to their investors, which have never invited me back, because John Doerr asked me about what do you think of the rate of innovation? We see it's increasing. And I said, well, I just see just the opposite. I think the computer industry is maturing, and when you have a maturing industry, you have you go through a consolidation phase and a relatively small number of companies that are competing, because you can't have there isn't this one brilliant idea that can make you competitive anymore. The innovation rates have slowed down, like the auto industry or the aviation industry, and the computer industry has hit that stage, I believe. But the biotech industry, not. The biotech industry, I think you still have the opportunity of a couple of very, very clever people doing something that's so innovative that you can build a large company around it.
So Larry, last question, I'll take some questions. Hell of a career, huge personal success. How long are you going to keep going?
Well, certainly the next 5 years. We just started our new 5-year plan, and we actually exceeded our previous 5-year plan, which we finished in May of this year. And we said over that 5 years we would grow our earnings at a compounded rate exceeding 20% a year, and we did that. And we have some very interesting targets, and we announced our targets to everybody, and no one believed us, but we did it, and we exceeded it by a good deal. We didn't hit 30% compounded, but we were close. And that's in the face of a really tough last year with the economy and the tech crash. Anyway, we got 5 more. We got a 5-year plan.
So you're just going to keep going.
I'm going to go for 5 more years, and we'll see how I feel after 5 years.
Good. Finally, someday if I'm 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, and I'm reading on a cloud computer in Wikipedia, what's Larry Ellison's legacy?
You know, it's interesting. I really haven't thought about it. I think I would like, I was thinking, we want to build TJ Watson Juniors, IBM. I mean, I think I would like Oracle to be a very successful company. I think I would like us to be the successor to IBM as we go into the full light of day of the information age. So if the information age was fully upon us and Oracle technology was powering and storing and retrieving most of that information, that would make me feel pretty good.
Well, I think you're a little bit, believe it or not, modest, because I think certainly what you've done is going to be very well documented in terms of a legacy. It's an incredible career so far. Thank you very much, Larry. We're gonna so we're running a little late, but the football game is not good tonight anyway. So we're going to take a few questions now. Again, we haven't asked anybody written down. Be polite, will you? And I'm going to filter the questions, so if you get kind of whatever, I'll cut it off. Go ahead. Tell me who you are, too, so we can write.
Are you going to filter the answers, too?
Yeah, I'm going to filter I'll answer the questions for Larry. We're going to take a picture of you and your name, so.
Okay. I got 2 quick questions.
No, one question.
Just
good.
2.
One.
Eddie, 2. One is, as a future ex-chairman, do you have any ideas on what future ex-chairmans could do after the EC? There's this.
Yeah, I think you just want to knock another couple strokes off the handicap.
No, I do admire and applaud your perspectives. You got it exactly right, and I wish you good luck as soon as this thing closes. But I do have one request. Can you buy the San Jose Sharks so that we can finally rename the stadium the Spark Tank?
Actually, I was going to ask you about that. You got Oracle in this arena, Golden State, the Oakland A's, the football team, the 40. We need a winner here. Why not go get one? And I'll come work for you. I'll help run the team.
I've been trying to buy a basketball team, and no one will sell me anything. I'm trying to buy a football team, trying to buy a basketball team. I think I'm probably buying a tennis tournament.
All right. You heard next question? Yep.
Yes, my name is George. I do not have a job, but I filed 4 patents in internet database in 1999 to 2000. In the recent 10 years, I lost 4 civil lawsuits against the university, corporation, government for discrimination and corruption. My question is about industry leaders. As you know, the 80 million baby boomers have started
Could
retirement.
you ask the question, please, quicker?
Yeah. Where is the next generation, the tech leader, tech industry leader come from?
Where's the next generation of tech leaders coming from?
Well, I think they'll come from all over the world. I think, I think it's the United States. I know President Obama said something very interesting, and he said that very soon the United States will again return to having the most college graduates of any country. But if you look at engineering graduates or mathematics graduates or physics graduates, we are way behind the Chinese. We are way behind India. And so in technology, as opposed to, let's say, we're a leader in other things in college graduation, but we certainly don't have a lot of. So I mean, I would look. I think it'd be some interesting technology startups all over the world, from China to India to Brazil to Russia, Scandinavia. Some interesting technology coming out of Scandinavia in regard to telecommunications. That's where Skype was. It's a long list. So whoever's producing engineers will produce technology innovation.
All right. End of the question. Any others? Yeah. Right there. Back there. Yes, you.
I have a medical.
Well, the question was, what about philanthropic?
Yeah, I mean, I have a medical foundation that I've given lots and lots of money to. I have an education foundation where we roll buses into India, and teach kids in villages. It was a very interesting experience. I don't spend a lot of time on it. I don't like to talk about it, but when we started teaching kids, putting lots of computers on buses to go into rural villages in India, we discovered it's very hard to teach kids that haven't eaten. So we had to bring food. And then it's very hard to teach kids who have dysentery. So we had to put filters on wells in these rural areas. So we kind of, through the process of learning, doing some of these things, we suddenly quickly realized that, we're trying to teach these kids, and we better feed them and make sure they have clean water to drink before we teach them. We were kind of focused on the wrong thing. I think one of the problems with philanthropy is people think once they've written the check, they're done. And actually, I'm very impressed that Bill Gates quit his job and went to work full time for his foundation. And I think in order to be a successful philanthropist, you not only got to write checks, but you've got to spend enough time with these projects to make sure you're getting results. I mean, simply writing a check is not enough.
That's right. Another question? We're here in front. Yes.
Ed and Larry, thank you for an unforgettable evening. Larry, I would love to know what your attitude towards net neutrality is.
That's like the cloud. That one drives me nuts.
Well, no, I'm happy to answer the question. It's a little bit like people saying when you charge sales tax for a book, you're taxing the internet. I think it's very dangerous for the government to engage in pricing for companies. So I would be a little bit absurd. I'd be a little bit worried if the government came in and did all the pricing for Safeway and did all the pricing, priced food, even though food's essential. I think net neutrality, or having lots and lots of government regulation about how the phone companies can price their network, which they built and they own, how they can price that is very interesting. Now, it's great for Google. It's really great if everything has to, so it really helps Google a lot. And it's really bad for the phone companies. So in general, I believe in free markets. And I think this is a case where government regulation is not necessary.
Yeah, I've been in that space, and I agree. wholeheartedly. Next question? Yeah, over here.
So, Larry and Ed, you guys both mentioned tonight about ERP and its vapor in the cloud. Are we just not thinking like more progressively? For example, I think, Larry, you quoted in the Financial Times, it's 10 years to build like a fully SaaS ERP in the cloud. That's what it'll take before you're going to be ready. But what happens like if we were to like open up corporations and have a bomb in the cloud and we could actually open up work orders and
Not
have
the
work
cloud
orders?
again. I don't want to go there again.
No, well, again, we offer our ERP system in the cloud. Again, I'm not sure what you mean. If by cloud you mean, can I simply log on to an ERP system on the internet and get accounts payable, accounts receivable, general ledger, and all supply chain, and all of this stuff from the cloud? We already do it.
I think it's more of a business, I don't want to go down here again. It's more of a business model. In other words, as a CIO, do I someday not buy computers and not buy software licenses? And
we have that. You don't have to
but
buy
I-
the
but I think
computer.
that's- it's more of
You
a
don't have to buy.
business model.
We just rent it. We'll rent it to you. We will today. Seriously. We will rent you our ERP system on a monthly fee. You don't buy a computer. You don't pay for the network. You don't pay for the software. You just pay a monthly fee. We've been doing it for some time. And if you will, you want to call that cloud computing, call it cloud computing. We've been doing it for a decade.
Okay, you're in the cloud.
Your last 5-year plan focused on SAP and market share in that area, and now you're saying you're moving into systems. Does systems include storage, or is that the end of the next 5-year phase, or how does servers, systems, and storage?
Okay, the Exadata system that we currently sell, we are in the hardware business. We do sell a database machine. The database machine has two primary components, two building blocks. One is the database server, and the other is what's called the Exadata storage server. And the Exadata storage server includes disk drives and flash. So we think storage is an incredibly important market. And it is one of in fact, there's a third component, the network, and we have an InfiniBand network built into the Exadata storage, the Exadata server that connects the database processors to these storage servers. So we are in storage, we are in networking, and we are in computing.
Just take it easy on the T's, will you?
Okay.
I gotta feed my kids, whatever. Next question.
Hey Larry, I watched you when you were on stage launching the Linux with the penguins kind of running out. And then tonight you talked about Solaris being this sort of fantastic new operating system, kind of taking us to the next step. So we had to recently make a decision between the e-business suite running on Solaris and e-business suite running on Linux. And a large firm who have a magic quadrant out there suggested to us that, well, no, Linux was the way to go, Solaris was going in the opposite direction. So just wonder, now that you are looking like you may end up with both, are you going to position one for one market and one for another, or are you just going to run them in parallel? Can you comment on that at all?
Well, we're a big supporter of Linux, but the fact is Solaris is a much more mature OS, just as the fact. We became a big supporter of Linux years ago because Linux ran on Intel microprocessors and inexpensive smaller computers, and Solaris did not. We had no choice. So we've been a supporter. We were a founding investor in Red Hat. We've been a big supporter of Linux. We have this thing called Oracle Enterprise Linux right now, which is the basis for a lot of the systems that we sell. So we are a supporter of Linux. But Solaris is a more mature operating system designed for larger systems. We support both.
Any more? One or two more, and one over there, one over there. Go ahead.
Larry, David McCulloch with Cisco. Oracle's known for its culture in Silicon Valley as being pretty unique. How would you describe that culture? And is it something that could be recreated in another company where the CEO isn't around for several decades?
Well, I know it's really interesting because a lot of the culture is usually around sales and marketing, and we probably spend less money in marketing than any company our size in the world. We have a tiny marketing department, and everyone says, well, why Oracle's all about sales and marketing. We are the largest employer of MIT and Caltech engineers in the world. We are the largest employer of Stanford and Harvard and CMU mathematicians in the world. We are overwhelmingly dominated by engineering at Oracle. The idea that we are a sales and marketing company, which people will sometimes will write about quite often, is ludicrous on the face of it, because all of our customers who buy Oracle already have it. And if you already have Oracle, there's nothing a salesman can tell you about how great it is to make you buy more. GE already uses it. The Defense Department already uses it. All of our customers, 98% of our sales or more, are to existing Oracle customers. If we don't have the right product, people don't buy more. We will, before the acquisition, we spent $3 billion a year in software engineering. The company is all about engineering. It's the only thing that works.
But I do think, obviously, the CEO and the founder does set an agenda. And I think I always thought about Silicon Valley, that if you took a look at Cisco and Sun and HP and Oracle, each one did have a different culture, and all of them worked. And there is a passion that we all work. I always said to myself, could I work at one of these other companies? And to me, I was just born and bred at Sun, and we had our own culture. And we always got along with these guys because in some cases we were similar. We all wanted to win. We all wanted to kill. We all had passion, courage, took risks. And if you get into that, and you're going to be part of it. I also think culture is made up of the employees. So when you see a guy like Larry operating every day, you got to get infectious, and somehow these things take on a life of their own. Yeah.
Larry, first off, I'd like to just thank you for coming this evening and sharing your insights with us over the last hour or so. It's really been quite amazing. What I really want to get at is that, and this is a really unusual feat that you got that Ed mentioned at the beginning, you've run Oracle continuously for 32 consecutive years. That does not happen in modern corporate America. That's unheard of. And what I really want to know is that you started off in 1977 with $2,000 and 3 employees. Fast forwarding 32 years, you now have a company with a market cap at well over $100 billion, and as you just said, 105,000 employees. So I'm really wondering is, from 1977 to 1986, when you guys went public, ironically one day before Microsoft, all the way through today, how would you describe each phase of the evolution of Oracle, and how would you sort of describe running each of those phases?
You got to do this quick.
Well, I mean, and clearly, being a part of a company with 4 people and being a part of a company, and by the way, we're 85,000 now post merger with Sun. 100. We think about Sun's got about 20,000 employees, and 25,000 employees. We're about 105,000. So 105, 110,000, and we're not sure exactly about that. I mean, clearly, my job has constantly changed. What has not changed is I ran engineering at Oracle on the first day. I run engineering today. The one part of the company I have always paid attention to, and is always reported directly to me, is engineering. Not sales, not marketing, not support, not consulting, not services. At various points in time, lots of other people have run those operations, the back office, accounting, order management, all of these things. The only thing that I've done consistently during those 32 years is run engineering, because I believe basically that once you'll win, as we say at Oracle. It's amazing. Our good products seem to do very well, and our bad products not so well. So the thing I focused on, and I think where you get the most leverage, is developing the right products, recruiting the right engineers, and having the right organization.
Pretty simple. Now we time for one more and we're done? Or is this it? This last one, I always hate to take the last question. Someone stand up and ask it. Better be good.
You're on here.
Let's go.
So, a little while ago, EMC and NetApp fighting over dimension data. One can visualize you sort of chomping at the bit, looking at those and saying, wow, I've got storage tech, add that on. Is there any deal you wish you had done that someone else did?
Oh, that's a good question. I should have asked that.
Well, the closest one was probably Sun. I think we made a last-minute decision to go and buy Sun because we thought the assets there, and I mean that enormous pool of engineering talent and all of the existing IP, was really unlike anything in Silicon Valley and available, we thought, at a very attractive price. And it allowed us to go into markets, if you will, finish round out our portfolio, which was all software, and round it out with some fantastic microprocessor technology and networking technology and storage technology, so we could deliver complete systems. We almost missed. We almost let that one get
That's
away.
right.
That's the closest one.
Well, look, we're gonna wrap this up. Let me just say in closing a couple of things. First of all, there's a video right after we finish, stay in your seats, that Oracle's produced about the sailing, I guess, to show the boat, right? This monster thing, and I think you'll really like that. And I just want to say thanks. I've had a wonderful time in Silicon Valley the last 25 years, and a great career. Got to be a CEO, but I'll tell you, it's really a privilege. There's a few guys in the industry that I've worked in since I was, 35 years ago that I just look at and say, wow, and this guy's one of them. So it was a pleasure sitting with you tonight. Thanks a lot.
Larry and Ed, on behalf of the club and all the members here, thank you very much for tonight. We enjoyed this. As a small gesture of our appreciation, this is a coveted Churchill Club T-shirt.
This is it.
And please wear it in pride while you're sailing or otherwise. Thanks again.
Freddie and a large from me. That's perfect.
Thanks again to Oracle, SVP, and CSC for making tonight possible. Drive safely tonight. Good night.
We'll see you, man. We'll see you. Thanks a lot again, Larry. See you. Good job.